Welcome in, my name is Ro. I'm a project manager, content creator, and healthy productivity fanatic. Get ready for practical tips and hands-on strategies to empower you on your journey to success and fulfillment in a life full of unique challenges. In today's video, I would like to walk you through my productivity system. This includes the apps that I use on a day-to-day basis, as well as the processes that I use to keep them aligned and keep them working for me. I personally rely very heavily on this system as my second brain, as my first brain is challenged with ADHD. However, I truly believe that every single person in the world can benefit from a productivity system. The one that I'm showing you today is definitely my version. This video is made to inspire you to create your own, but make sure to make something that works for your brain. There is no right or wrong in this one. The most important thing is that I'm showcasing what apps I use and the processes and the things that I've thought about in these processes. So hopefully they can help you or inspire you to create your own productivity system. Before diving into any of the apps or specifics, there is one very important thing, and that is how I keep all of these apps aligned. I use 3 different apps for different parts of my productivity system, and obviously if you have multiple apps, information will flow from one to the other, and making sure that the information is up to date in all places without having to do a lot of manual and double administration is vital. So that's why I have some processes in place, and the core of these processes is to have labels or categories or something that creates containers that are similar across all of my different productivity apps. The 3 labels that I use are 1, my project management job. That is everything related to the company that I work for. All my meetings, all my meeting notes, all my development plans, all my trainings, everything is stored in that part or under that label. The second one is my content creation. That involves anything that I do for this channel, my other channel, my streams, my social media, basically anything, all the events, it is all stored over there. And last but definitely not least is my personal life. That is anything friends, family, my relationship, things that I want to do in my house, things that I have ambitions for, places that I want to travel to. All of those things are stored in my personal life. Those labels are actually used in every single one of my apps, so you will see them in everything I showcase today, and it helps me find some sort of consistency in the things that I'm doing. I do use subcategories, so for example, in my project management job, I have a label, like a sub-label for every project that I'm working on. This is mostly for filter purposes, so whenever I want to know what I'm doing for a specific project, I'm able to filter out within the big container of my project management job. I'm able to filter out all my notes, all my meetings, everything for that specific project more easily. But the main containers are those 3. One of the most important things that I always do to align things is that I always have a day in the week, and that depends on how my weekend goes, where I align these things. Usually it's my Sunday morning. I sit down, I make my to-do list for the whole week, I check my calendar, I make sure that my notes are updated. I am working currently on also getting some journaling and stuff in there. But the thing is, I have a moment in the week, and sometimes this moves to a Monday if I have a very busy weekend. Sometimes I do a bit earlier. I do it on the Saturday. So basically, this moment in the week is where I make sure that all of my to-dos, all of my calendars, everything is aligned with each other. So those 2 things, the categories and the certain moment in time, really help me to keep my 3 apps aligned and make sure that the productivity system is something that throughout the whole week, I can just rely on. I don't have to use my brain to think about what I have to do, when I have to do it, and where I have to store my information. It's literally already thought out for me. And because my system is set up in a way that allows me to just take like 1 or 2 hours every week, I can prepare everything and then I can rely on it for the whole week. And sometimes even recurring tasks and stuff are scheduled further ahead so that I don't have to think about it at all. So now that I've covered how I'm aligning all of these things, let's actually dive into which apps I use and how I use them. Let's start off with the basis of everything I do, and that is my calendars. And yes, you heard it correctly, I have multiple. This is mainly because at my job we use Outlook, and I have no control over which app we use, so that means that all of my appointments and anything that I do related to my project management job is actually stored in Outlook. However, for all my personal appointments and the calendar that I share with my partner, I actually use Google Calendar. The main reason for this is 1, it's very easy to share. 2, it allows you to create sub-calendars, which allows me, again, to kind of implement that labeling or categorization system into my calendar. And 3, it is nice and customizable. I can pick my own colors, it looks nice, it is accessible from a lot of places. And also Google Calendar is easy to import into any other calendar app. So if ever in the future I decide to change up wherever I view my calendar, it allows me to also do that because Google Calendar is really accessible in that way. Also, it allows me to view my calendar right from my phone. It is one of the few apps on iPhone, at least, that is unpaid that allows you to have a week view. And as a person who always kind of lives in iterations of weeks, it's frustrating if I don't have a week view, and I want to be able to see 7 days ahead at all times, and Google Calendar actually allows me to do that. So that's the reason that I picked this calendar app as my main one. I even added my work calendar to this app. So I shared my Outlook calendar. This allows me when I'm on the go and I'm on the fly and I have to make an appointment, I actually get to see what is in my calendar. And if I have time to do, for instance, something during lunchtime, or if I have a meeting right at 1 and I won't be able to go out of my house or out of the office. So basically, this is my main source of truth. However, during my work days, I do mostly use Outlook. I'm quickly gonna turn off my work agenda because it makes my calendar look very, very messy. But I wanna walk you through the features that I use, or the things that I do with my calendar, because obviously I mentioned that I use 3 productivity apps, so they all serve a different purpose. And I wanna walk you through what I use my Google Calendar for, or what purpose this one serves. The first one is kind of obvious, it's appointment tracking. Whenever I have an appointment, I make sure to put it in my calendar so I don't forget. It's kind of what calendars are designed for, so it feels like a no-brainer, but I know that some people only use their calendar for time blocking, for instance. I use it for both. I will get to the time blocking part in a second. But basically, this is just for me whenever I have an appointment with someone, whenever I have to be somewhere at a certain time, I put it in my Google Calendar. This is the way that I never forget appointments. If it's not in my calendar, it's not happening. It's a very simple rule that I live by. If I don't put it down, I will forget it, and I will not show up, and I will not be there. My brain does not remember these things, so I need to write it down. That's also the reason that I really want to have a calendar app on my phone, because it allows me to, on the fly, whenever I'm somewhere and I make an appointment with someone, or whenever I'm texting and someone says, hey, can we do this date this time? I put it in my calendar immediately. I don't wait with doing that until the Sunday or like that review moment in the week. I do it right away, because otherwise I will forget. The second one, I kind of already briefly touched upon it, is time blocking, and you can definitely see that in my calendar. As you can see, I block time for YouTube. I block time for YouTube on my part-time days because I only work 3 days a week as a project manager. My other 2 days, or sometimes in the weekend as well, are spent working on content. I block time for streaming, and I block time in my calendar for when I'm working for the company that I work for. It's called Topdesk. It's an IT company where I'm a project manager, and I also even block time in my calendars. As you can see, the week planning, I have it blocked every week, and the household chores that I have to do, like cleaning my house and stuff. I don't always specifically do it on that time, but the reason I put it in is because I noticed myself getting busier and busier, and my weekends were really blocked. And at one point in time, I realized, you know what? I don't have time to do my chores. I don't have time to do my weekly review. So I need to time block it in my calendar so that whenever I make appointments with someone, I at least take into account that I need about 2 hours to get everything in order in my house, and that I need about 1.5 hours to do my weekly review. You will see these are reoccurring appointments, so they actually show up every single week in my calendar, apart from here, because this is where I'll be on holiday. So as you can see, I also clear out my calendar when I'm on holiday. I try to not leave any recurring appointments in there, even though I know I will be away, because this is really what I rely on when it comes to what is going to happen in my life this week. So I want to make sure that it is an accurate representation of what I'm doing. I briefly had to scroll back a little bit to find an example of the third one, and that is reminders. If I have to remember something, especially if it's tied to a specific date or a specific time, I need to put it in my calendar. I will also put it in my to-do list eventually. I'll talk about that when I get to the to-do list part. But the reason I put it in my calendar is when I do my weekly review, I want to be reminded that I need to do something on that day. So for instance, this could be sending out an email, sending out a package. And in this case, one of the examples that I found is check and reserve meet and greets. When I was going to TwitchCon, I actually needed to make a reservation for a certain meet and greet. I really wanted to meet Pokimane. So I really needed to do this. I needed to make sure that I sat down at my PC at the right time. But since it wasn't really an appointment with someone, I consider it more to be a reminder. It's more like an appointment with myself of having to do something on a certain date and time. And I make sure to put that in my Google Calendar because that way I will actually notice it during my weekly review. I'll put it on my to-do list. And that way, whenever I start my day and I look at my to-do list, I won't forget that I have to do that certain thing. I already briefly touched upon the fact that Google Calendar is really customizable and you can pick your own colors. As you can see, this is also something that I've done with all of my categories or all of the colors that I'm using in my calendar. These are kind of more the subcategories to the main three that I mentioned, but my Topdesk time is my project management job. For my content creation, I have both my YouTube and my streams, so anything red or purple in my calendar. Then for personal appointments, I have this kind of darker shade of green. Then I have the calendar that I share with my boyfriend, which is yellow, so anything that we're going to do together. He also has access to this calendar, so it's basically in both of our calendars. For instance, what time we need to catch our flight to Madeira. All of these things really help because it's just nice that only one of us has to put it in, and then it will show up in both of our calendars. And then I have my orange, which is my personal life thing, so anything related to appointments that are just for me, reminders that are just for me, appointments with my friends. In this case, I have to swap out my piercing because I have an appointment in the hospital and I have a massage booked in and I'm gonna chill with my best friend. All of these things are things that I put in my personal calendar. And as you can see, it's very visually easy for me to spot whatever is my time going to. So whenever I want to know, hey, I feel overwhelmed, what are the things that I'm currently doing? I can very easily see, oh, what are the things that I'm spending most of my time on? And is that the things that I want to be spending my time on? It also helps me in my yearly review of my goals, all of those things. So time blocking or like using color-coded things in your calendar to make your life visual for yourself really helped me in getting more control over what I'm spending my time on. Then next up in my productivity system is the thing that I've mentioned a couple of times in this video already, and that is my to-do list. I feel like to-do lists are something that anyone with a productivity system uses. Even if you don't have a productivity system, people are used to scribbling things down on a paper and be like, oh, I need to remember to do that today. For this, I use an app called Todoist. I've been using this for as long as I can remember. I think I found this 2, maybe even 1 year into my studies, which by now, I'm afraid to admit is like 10 years ago. I've been using Todoist for 10 years. That's actually kind of wild. But this app is just, it is so easy to use. It is very simple on the eye, so there's not like a million flashy buttons and things going on. But at the same time, there's a lot of power in this app. And over the 10 years that I've been using it, it only kept developing. So for instance, in the beginning, there were no recurring tasks. Now we have recurring tasks. You can add subtasks. So all of these things that are very vital to being able to be productive got added over the last 10 years. And I already fell in love with this app 10 years ago when it was just new. It is also nice that it has a really good phone version. So whenever I'm on the go, again, I can check my to-do list on my phone. Both my Google Calendar and my to-do list are pinned in my dock next to Spotify and WhatsApp, because these are the 2 apps I use so often on my phone as well. But it's nice that they both have a desktop and a phone version, because that way you can just very easily swap between your devices, and also both of them are online, which makes it very easy for me to, at my home computer and at my work computer, access all of my information at once. Again, in my to-do list system, you can actually see the labels that I'm using again. So my top desk work, my content creation, and my personal life. All 3 of these categories appear here again. And then again, in Todoist, I use subcategories. So for instance, you can see the YouTube label again, you can see the stream label again. I have an admin label for all of the admin work that I have to do, which unfortunately in my life feels like too much sometimes. I have an event label, so this is for me going to appointments or when I'm working on something that is related to an event. And I have one that is called chores, which is basically just having to run to the grocery store, delivering a package to the post office. All of those things will go under the chores category. You will see some of this is in Dutch. Dutch is my native language. I'm definitely not a native English speaker. But yeah, my whole productivity system is like a mush between Dutch and English. For some reason, I have days where my brain is only in English and I write everything in English, and I have other days where my brain is just Dutch. That's just how it is, I guess. But yeah, was draaien means laundry. Huis opruimen means cleaning my home. So those are the things that I want to do on Saturday. As you can see, there's a little recurring icon next to it. All the tasks that I have to do every single week, I just put in as a recurring task so that I don't forget them. Even certain tasks that I have to do every 3 months or every month, I put them in as a recurring task, because then whenever I look at my to-do list at the beginning of the week, the task will magically just show up and it will remind me that I have to do something. It's honestly such a lifesaver for someone who cannot remember anything. And like mentioned, every Saturday or Sunday, I sit down and I look at my calendar, I see which appointments are in there, and then I prepare everything that I need to do that week. I don't only look at my calendar though. There is a third thing that I look at, and I will show you that after this one. That's basically where everything that isn't in my calendar or in my to-do list will go. There is a big chunk of my content and like my content planning that is not in my calendar, but actually goes into the third app that I'm going to talk about in a little bit. I also take a look at that one, and then I make sure that I put everything in here. I even put meetings and appointments. I put anything that I have to do on my to-do list because one, this allows me to get a really, really quick overview of if my day is too busy. Because if I start my day with a to-do list that has more than 20 tasks on it, I can already guarantee you I will not be able to finish all of those. So it allows me to kind of see, am I doing too much in a day, or all these tasks really small and can I totally do this in a morning? Then the second thing why I like to put all of the meetings in is because it gives me a little dopamine hit when I get to tick something off. It makes me feel productive, it makes me feel happy. So I very, very much like to put everything, even meetings, and like even if I have an appointment with a friend and we're gonna hang out and have dinner, I will put it on my to-do list. For the simple reason that, again, it gives me an overview of how busy is my day, what are the things that I'm gonna do, and also it's just nice to tick it off. And at the end of the day, like Todoist will tell you, great job, you ticked off all your tasks, go enjoy your free time. And it's just nice, you know, I like it. And then the last app, I just teased it already a little bit. You could have expected this one, but it's Notion. I discovered Notion about 2.5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, and I cannot believe I didn't know about Notion before. It is like the perfect note-taking app. In the beginning, it was a little bit overwhelming because the app obviously comes in completely empty. There's nothing. You get to customize everything, and I cannot tell you how many iterations I have had of my Notion dashboard or like my Notion app. I've had so many different versions, but it is so nice that you just get to start somewhere and you can copy and paste pages, you can move pages, so whenever you redesign your dashboard or like redesign how you want to visualize your brain on digital paper, you just get to move things. And that made it for me stand out so much over any note-taking app I'd used before, or like even paper note-taking. One of my biggest frustrations is that I start taking notes, even with like bullet journaling, I figure out what I want to do, and then halfway through the bullet journal, I decide that I want to change my system. And then all of the things that I did previously won't fit into my new system because they're on paper and I can't move them. That to me was the thing that drew me into Notion the most, that I was allowed to make mistakes, that I was allowed to just do whatever and then figure out my system later. So just a heads up, the thing that you're seeing now is a 3-year work in progress and I'm not close to done. But let me know in the comments down below if you would be interested in a full Notion tour, because then I can walk you through all of the things I have in my Notion. Today, I just want to show you the brief overview on how it ties into my productivity system. Also, cheeky side note, if you've made it to this point in the video and you've been liking it and you've been getting value out of it, tossing it a cheeky like, it really helps the video get to more people. And also, if you want to see more content like this and maybe potentially even see that future Notion tour, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and notification bell. Now let's get back to the video. So basically anything that is unplanned, so it doesn't go in my calendar, and is not an immediate to-do, so it doesn't go on my to-do list, all of those things will end up in my Notion. You can imagine this as like the place where I store all of my knowledge, where I store all of the things that I want to remember. The only odd one out here is that my content creation planning actually is in Notion, and it is a planning, so you could suggest this could also go into my calendar. But since our YouTube video goes through so many stages and has like so many different moving parts to it, I decided that if I want to do that in my Google Calendar, I'm gonna have to create a million appointments just for one video. So I decided I'm gonna create a workflow in Notion, and that works so much better for me. So I have a full content creation dashboard. Again, you can see on my Notion dashboard, this is the starting page to my Notion. This is where you'll arrive when I open my personal dashboard. There is the areas, again, you have work, which is split up in content creation, and work, which is my project management dashboard, and personal. Personal is split up in a bunch of different categories, all the things that I either have goals for or things that I want to think about. Then I have my knowledge hub. This is definitely something that I need to work on still because it's something I started quite recently. But basically any YouTube video, course, training notes, genius Twitter threads, as you can see, things that I find out there in the world that I'm like, oh, I want to store this and keep this somewhere to be able to reference later. I put it in my knowledge hub. Then I have an archive. I never delete any pages because I don't know when I'll need to refer back to them. So I put everything in an archive. I have my finance in here, so basically just my budgeting system. I track which films and TV shows I watch. Honestly, this dashboard could do with a lot of improving. It's definitely not done. I have an experience dashboard, which is something that I will talk about probably in another video, but it's something I'm really proud of and I really like, but it basically entails all of the experiences I have in my life. Travel, dinners, events, cool places I've been to, And I store them all because I don't want to forget things that I cherish, and I don't want to forget things that I've really, really enjoyed. And this to me is it's a special place in my Notion, so I'll show you that later. Then I have my journal. Again, it's very bare. I use it to write my thoughts down whenever I feel like it. I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I want to get into the habit of journaling a bit more. I definitely want to do that before the end of the year, to try and reflect on my week a bit more, to be more conscious about the things I do, because sometimes life just lives me and it flies by, and I want to be more conscious and like take a moment to stand still and appreciate the things I've done. And one of the things that I've done recently is I try to do this every 6 months, is to set some intentions and goals, and I can briefly show you. Here you can see how the year is progressing. You can see my standard routine. This is basically very, very broad, or like general, is how I want to fill in my days. I do this so that I have a little bit of grip on like the moving parts between working 3 days as a project manager and like 2.5 days as a content creator. And also it allows me to kind of have an overview of if I'm spending my time again on the things that I want. It allows me to more easily do the time blocking in my Google Calendar. So this is my standard routine. And then I have goals. Again, you can see my career, you can see my business, so the same labels. And then for my personal life, there is a bunch of different things, my experiences, my physical health, my relationship, my finance, and my mental health. But these are the main categories I use. And then underneath every goal, you can see that I've like a subset of goals that they are things that I want to do to achieve that specific goal. Not all of these I have to reach within this year. These are just more like intentions that I set for myself so I can be more aware of the decisions I'm making. And then a little bit about my habits, like I mentioned, journaling once a week, but also getting my sleeping schedule in order, and things that I've already successfully reached by just putting them down this year in the beginning of the year, knowing that that was something I wanted to work on. So this is an example of one of my Notion dashboards. I also mentioned the content creation dashboard. There's a couple of pages that I don't need on my dashboard directly, but I do need to know. So my sponsor information, things related to my business finance, things that I do for my charity streams, my stream stats. I've recently started doing co-working streams, so I've kind of been keeping tabs on how that is going and if it's performing well. My merch designs, all the information that I need for that is stored over here. And then I have my content backlog, which is actually the heart of what I do. There is 2 different views that I use for this same database. I love databases. They just click in my brain. They just make sense. There is a bunch of amazing Notion creators out there like Thomas Frank. If you ever want to get more into Notion and want to understand how these databases work, I'll make sure to link his channel below as well, because that's where I learned all my Notion magic. And also let me know if you ever want me to do any of those videos to kind of do some Notion tutorials or walk you through how I've set up things. Let me know in the comments down below. But I use 2 different views. I use the backlog view where I can very, very clearly see. As you can see now, my productivity system is in ready to record. I wrote the script. If I click on it, you will actually see the script for this video. I wrote like the pointers that I want to talk about in this video, and it basically has everything that I want to work on in the coming month, or things that I need to schedule, like content that I've actually filmed, edited, everything, and that I just need to put on the platforms that I want to post them on. Then again, I also have a second view, which is like the monthly view. All of these things are linked to dates, and I can very easily see all the things I need to do this week. Have I actually scheduled them? Have I actually done them? Is everything that needs to go online this week ready to go? It makes it very, very easy for me to have an overview of, am I present on the internet each day of the week? This is very much a social media thing, that you have to be present and people have to be able to find you. As you can see, I have some different labels. This is where my unscheduled ideas go. So whenever I'm on the go and I'm like, oh wait, that could be a fun idea for an extra TXT video, or maybe a Sims video for my other channel, or maybe like a TikTok, I can just dump it in here. And then at a later point in time, every month or so, I sit down, I review my content calendar, because as you can see, it gets a little bit more bare as I click through it. October is completely empty. I need to sit down and like think about which videos I want to make for October, how I want to schedule them. The last thing, my work dashboard. As you can see, again, I have one for a project. I have my project notebook. I have my project management notebook. That's just for everything that relates to my project management team. And I'm also a portfolio manager for the Dutch branch of our company. So this is where I store all the information on that. And then I have my personal development, which relates back to everything that I take, like courses, trainings, events that I do for my personal development as a project manager, or anything else related to my skills. And then I have a year overview. One thing I think I can open is October, for instance, because that just contains a private appointment, is I will be going to TwitchCon US and a holiday in the US. And I put that in here because whenever someone wants to schedule, or like whenever someone asks, do you have time to pick up a new project, etc., I just look at this overview and I'm like, hey, how are my month? Like, which big things are happening in that month that I need to remember? Which are big events, which are things that will take a lot of my time. So this just kind of allows me to see that in one overview without having to click through my calendar and see if I'll have time. So again, sometimes information kind of repeats itself, but I just place it wherever my brain feels like it's necessary to be able to see that information. That kind of covers my work dashboard. I hope that was useful. I think that also concludes the entire video. Please let me know in the comments down below what your biggest takeaway from this video was, because I would absolutely love to hear it. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and notification bell if you want to see more healthy productivity content. And with all of that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye, everyone.